impressed, but looking goofy at the same time. He bugging, she looking, I'm going for mine. Confidently I approach with that eye-to-eye contact.
Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. I am Still Fashionista. Happy Vlogmas, okay? I got on my nice little red dress and my Santa hat with the nice little tiara attached. I wanted to give you a little bit of holiday flair on the video. But yes, y'all, today I have a treat for you. We're going to talk about Dr. Simone Whitmore of the Married to Medicine show, and we're going to discuss a scene that occurred between her and her family. It was very telling, in my opinion. So I want us to be clear that this is not a judgment video, but it's more or less us having a discussion about what we witnessed and saw that was displayed on the show, as well as delving into some key themes here, like emotional labor, enablement, being misaligned with your spouse, and what happens when you're always looked at being the strong one and who supports you in what you need. You know what I'm saying? So Dr. Simone is a mother, a wife, an OBGYN, and she's a public figure because she's on the Married to Medicine show, as I mentioned. And just from watching her throughout the years, she does carry a lot. That she does do a lot, if you will, within her family dynamic and everything. And I really believe that in this particular scene that she just had enough. That she was at her wit's end, and what we're witnessing there is not a person having a meltdown per se, but a person who really is just at their wits end. They are just done. You know what I'm saying? So I really want us to kind of get on the same page, and I'm going to show you some clips of this conversation, and then we're going to come back and we're going to discuss it.
Did it was I got scholarship money and loans.
Are in a situation where we can help.
Who here at the table gives a about how hard I'm working instead of being able to move towards retirement?
What about all the rich white kids, their parents pay for their way to do everything, and then they get out of college debt-free and are millionaires?
So what about all the white people who pay for their kids to go to school, be debt-free, and they still ain't doing shit? Tired of being the lone man out. It's always 3 against 1.
I'm jumping in.
Don't jump in. You can't speak for me because you don't think like me. You don't think like me. You don't support me on shit.
Where did that come from?
It comes from
Is this a
My. So y'all, that is a brief segment of the discussion that aired on the show. And what wasn't shown right now was Simone had came out. They were having their discussion as a family. And, the boys, which are her sons, are 22 and 26. They're getting ready to graduate from college. They may have graduated by now. And so the youngest son, the one who was talking about what white people do for their kids, he was, saying he wanted to go to law school. And when Dr. Simone had asked him, like, hey, okay, so what is your plan for financing that? His response was, my mother, has money. So, yeah. Um, wow. And that's why, I think she went and got a notebook because she was calculating the Chase bill, and this young man had spent $64,000 in 1 year on the Chase bill. Yeah, $64,000 in 1 month on the Chase bill. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And then she was saying, that, hey, when she found out her kids were getting ready to graduate college from undergrad, she's thinking, okay, well, now I can really focus on my financial planning for retiring. And I think what she envisioned was, because she's an OBGYN, maybe no longer doing the delivery of babies part, but just maybe coming into the office and doing regular, checkups, that kind of a thing. Like I have doctors when I was back in San Antonio only open like Monday through Thursday, right? She wouldn't have to do those overnight shifts, or be on call, to go into the hospital and all that good jazz, right? So she's, almost 60. She's like 57, 58, and and she's wanting to be able to retire and enjoy the fruits of her labor. And I don't see anything wrong with that. Now, yes, her son is definitely giving entitlement here. But the bottom line is that, Dr. Simone and her husband Cecil, they contributed to how their sons are behaving. Like, this isn't anything that came up overnight, right? Her son is very comfortable stating and speaking to his parents as he does. He was very disrespectful to his mother on this segment, in my opinion. And it's clear he does this on a regular basis, not because the cameras are there. Like, it was clear to me, like, this is a normal thing, a normal way of communication, right? Um, and I felt like her moment on this show was real. She really was in distress. And, I think with the way her son was talking to her, she felt, unheard and unsupported, especially by her husband. But what I really want to say here is that, an adult child who's 22 years old just doesn't happen to spend $64,000 on a credit card without anybody just not knowing about it. You know what I'm saying? The systems that need to be in place that would have curtailed that were not in place. Think about it. If you had $64,000, like, that is someone's salary. That used to be my salary many years ago. $64,000, that was my salary many years ago, right? And that could have been money that could have been used to fund her retirement. Imagine what you could have done if you would have invested $64,000 into whatever stocks that you want to invest them into and make a nice return on investment, opposed to using that money to pay off a credit card bill. Like, seriously. That's a lot right there. The way he was talking to her was a bit much for me. And then he was telling her in this scene that I didn't show you here, was how he, wanted another vehicle. So she bought him a brand new Jeep when he graduated high school, and he was saying, he needs to now elevate, and he needs to be in a Tesla, honey. He needs to be riding more stylish, right? Says somebody who apparently don't have a job, who can't afford their own lifestyle, right? So to sit there and be telling your mother about what kind of vehicle you need to be in is crazy to me. Let me tell you guys, my dad bought me numerous vehicles, cash cars, as I was, growing up and being able to drive. Now, when I was getting ready to graduate college, I want to say like the fall before I graduated, I think my car, I was driving to Montgomery, and my car started smoking under the hood. Yes, honey. So my dad gave me my mother's car and bought her another one. So I had that Toyota Camry, honey, the golden chariot. I had that car from 2003 until 2020, when my car got hit, because I was involved in a car accident, and the car got totaled. But I kept that car all that time and had no car note. And I was glad about it. Okay. I did not tell my dad, well, you need to buy me a brand new car, Dad. I need to be riding stylishly, because I understood that, hey, when I graduate from college, my dad did what he needed to do. He made sure that he took care of me until I graduated and could take care of myself. But, yet and still, when it came to the payment of my education, as I've told you guys before, I had a full scholarship as far as tuition, full tuition scholarship. I had half off of my room and board. I also received like stipends for books and things like that. And then I used my student loans to cover the rest along with Pell Grant money. And so once I graduated college, I was able to get a job that would pay up to 50K towards student loans. I didn't have that much in student loans, but they went ahead and paid, you know what I'm saying, up to that amount. So my loans got paid off in like 2 years of me working. So that is what I did to cover my education. Now, when I decided to get my master's degree, I have an MBA. I did tuition assistance for my employer, and I covered the rest with student loans, right? And I went ahead and I made payments on my student loans, And after, I think 10 years, and during the pandemic, they offered that program where I got so much of my student loans like forgiven. So when I came out of the pandemic, I didn't have any more student loan debt, right? So yet again, I figured out how to get my education financed to not have to, impact my parents. But the bottom line is that my parents wanted to make sure I had an undergraduate degree. I got that. Anything else beyond that was on me to figure out how to obtain. So the fact that she paid for them to go to college, undergrad, it appears she paid cash, so to speak, and then you're expecting her to pay $60,000. Well, not 60K. I forgot how much it costs to go to a law school. But let me tell you guys, I did look up some costs, and let me share that with you guys real quick because I was intrigued by how much it would cost to go to to go get a law degree. And what I'm showing here is that if you go to a public school, you're looking at between 30 to 32K per year. It takes about 3 years to do this. So on the low end, we're looking at, $90,000. Now, in my mind, if she's paying 64K for a credit card bill for 1 year, I would have been like, sir, when you decide to spend this on this credit card, that was your law degree. That's what I would have said personally. But I understand, she wasn't thinking like that. She had a lot going on in that moment. But yes, y'all, to go to get a law degree, the estimate for that public in-state school, low end is 30K. If you're going out of state, public, you're looking at 45K per year. And for a private school, it's around $58,000 per year to go to law school. This lady is almost 60. Okay. Um, is she supposed to spend her entire life working to finance her children's education? Now, what I was kind of curious about is I'm like, what does an OBGYN make? Um, in the Atlanta area. And her husband is a realtor. So I wanted to kind of have an understanding of the contribution to the finances piece, right? Because I think that's very important to me. You know, what I learned is that the average annual salary for a OBGYN could be, up to 400K on the high end, 400K, right? On the low end, you're looking at right at maybe, 227,000. So we're speaking in averages here, right? So I'm going to assume that Dr. Simone is more on the high end. She has her own practice, you know, um, to my understanding, she went and got her another home that's near the hospital. So when she has to go on call and deliver babies at 2 in the morning, she's not having to drive as far to get to the hospital, which makes good sense. Now, a realtor, their salary varies depending on what they sell, right? But on average, we're gonna give Cecil about $200,000 average salary. Okay, so he's bringing in, good money. And as a matter of fact, he made a post stating that he brings in good money, like he has money, right? So let me show you guys that as well, because a lot of people um were saying that, Dr. Simone makes all the money, Cecil is living off her, all of that. And Cecil made it very clear that no, he has his own money as well. And he may not be making what she makes, in my assessment. Because think about it. When the son was asked, like, hey, how are you planning to finance this? His answer was, I have a mom that has money. He didn't say my parents, he said my mom. So that's why Simone, spoke from an I perspective about what about me retiring, and she said, hey, who else at the table has um a doctorate degree, you know, something above, a bachelor's. It's only her. And she said it, how did I get that? I got student loans, and I got scholarships. And so to me, I don't understand why her son just assumed that mother would just pay, you know, 30 to 40K per year for him to go to law school. Now, what I would recommend here is I feel like, you know what, he's graduated undergraduate school. he needs to go into the workforce and work for a year or two. And what I would do if I was Dr. Simone is for every dollar that he saves, I would match that towards going towards his law school degree. Now, my understanding that she was paying for her son's residence, and she did say that she felt that was still her obligation as far as like providing them somewhere to live. They can live with her, whatever the case is, right? But I would need to see him saving some money. Okay, I had a coworker of mine. He's my millionaire coworker. I keep telling y'all about. And what he did was this: when his son got ready to go to college, he said, "Okay, you go ahead and you pay your tuition and you send me your grades. And if your grades are where they need to be, all A's, then I will repay what was the tuition for that semester." So if his son wanted to get a scholarship or get a loan, whatever it is, if say it was say a $4,000 semester, you get it paid, scholarship, loan, your mother, whatever case may be, you provide me that report card. I will write a check to the university, or I will back pay whatever for that $4,000. That was his mindset because he did not want to waste his money. I had a friend when I was in college, and his parents were very well off, and they paid for their son to go to school cash to Ski University. That's a private institution. You're looking at the time maybe 20K per year, something like that. I don't even know because I had, like I said, scholarship, loan, and Pell Grant. I looked at what was going to be the refund check, right? And so his dad would pay up front, and and his son would never complete the semester, and he wouldn't even like disenroll in a timely fashion so that the parents get their money back. So the money was pretty much wasted, but they wanted their son to get a degree, so they made the sacrifice to pay this. And so after doing that for a few semesters, the dad says, "You know what? I'm not spending any more of my money you know, paying for you to go to school, for you to not go to class and not even have the decency to disenroll so I can get more of my money back." And that man sat there and told me one day, because I love this guy's parents. He told me that he grew up in the South, in the country, and that he didn't have a degree or anything, but he wanted his kids to have a better life and to live better than what he did. So he worked very hard with his wife, and they were able to, get their house paid off. They bought all their vehicles in cash, paid for the kids. They had a very nice, comfortable lifestyle, right? And he said that he made the mistake of giving his kids too much. Okay, he wanted his kids to have what he didn't have. So he worked hard, he worked the overtime, him and his wife, to make sure that they could have the best. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes, what can I tell you? You live and you learn. So he told me that was what he learned from that process, that he did too much, he gave too much to his kids, because there's a difference between providing and preparing for your kids, for your offspring. Providing and preparing. Okay, that's a big deal here, right? Because Dr. Simone, there wasn't anything wrong about her giving her son the 64K, paying that credit card bill, because she had the money to do it. And that's what she did, right? Because I'm telling you right now, any person that's going to be on my card is going to have a limit on what they can spend on it. Okay. It ain't gonna be you coming out $64,000 in one year. But that's just me. I'm not making $400,000 a year. You see what I'm saying? But yes, I think the issue for her is she needed to set boundaries and establish some controls in this process, right? And she's generous, but I know she talks a lot to her kids about financial management and all of that. But, a lot of times kids think that because my parents have money, that means they have money. See what I'm saying? And they operate as if they have what's in their parents' bank account. So you as a parent have to go ahead and check that. Okay? Because let me tell you, when my dad told me that, hey, I don't pay for credit cards and I don't pay for speeding tickets, I believe what he said because he established that with me. and my brother, right? When he told me, here's your last 520s that you're gonna get from me on June 2004, I believe that. My dad has not given me any money since. As a matter of fact, if my dad, calls me and even hints at something that he may want, if I'm able to get it, I just say, hey dad, it'll be there Friday. Hey dad, it'll be there Saturday. Like I told y'all, he wanted this non-stick pan. I spent $50 for it. Here you go, dad. Early Christmas gift. He called me talking about he wanted um a propane gas grill. He wants to be outside doing cooking things. I said, okay, well, look at these and let me know your thoughts. He picked out one. I said, okay, dad, it'll be there day after Christmas. You know what I'm saying? Because guess what? That's just how I roll here. Because my parents are on a fixed income now. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to have them pay me back for things that I can comfortably afford to do for them. That's how I operate. You know what I'm saying? Because they're not asking me to help them pay their household bills or anything. So I'm blessed I have parents that, planned well and can take care of themselves. But I do understand that, we have the price of things going up every day, every year. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, they're on a fixed income. So I just all that to say that, hey, my dad instilled in me, hey, you need to be able to take care of yourself. And that's what I do. You feel me? But yes, y'all, let's I want you guys to hear what Dr. Heavenly had to say, because she was doing an interview with Carlos King, and she had a lot of insight that I think would be very helpful to this conversation.
My son, in fact, he told the men, listen, do not ask Damon anything inappropriate. And they could have asked, because we knew what it was already in the thing. But Cecil was the one that led that charge. So I have nothing but respect for Cecil, right? I love Cecil. Yeah. But if you understand the situation with Cecil and Simone, if y'all been watching, Cecil stayed with his mom until his mama took care of him, until Simone came and got him and took him away from his mama. So he thinks it's okay for the mama to do everything, and that's just his mentality. Just like when I went in them nursing homes, you can't change people's mentality, what they think. Your mind is a process, and and the Bible says, if repetition is, repetition, if you say something over and over again, you're gonna believe it. That's how you brainwash people, right? They say that's how you brainwash people. But the great thing about it is your mind can be reprogrammed, but it almost takes an act of God or a near death experience to change your mind on those kind of things. So Cecil's not going to change the way he thinks. Simone going to continue to work till she don't know more. But the great thing is she's in a different situation. Her house is paid off. You know what I'm saying? If she chose not to work again, Simone would be fine. You hear what I'm saying? So all the extra, and this is what our son's talking about, but that extra is for her to retire on, and she's almost 60.
So that was some good insight that Dr. Heavenly provided as far as um, Cecil's background, because I did see a post that Cecil made where he was saying that, when he graduated from Morehouse, he moved to California and he was staying on the property of his parents, and that his mother cooked for him every day, and that she was the best mother in the world, and da 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 da, rah rah rah. And so, in tandem with Dr. Heavenly is saying, like, this is that's how he was raised, and he expects that for his sons, right? And that's why it's important when you pick a partner, when you pick a spouse, when you choose a husband or a wife, that you are picking someone that has shared values. You're picking someone that you guys have a common understanding of how you want to raise your kids and raise your family, where you have a common understanding of how you want to handle financial management, things of that nature. I hear a lot of men talk about, well, a woman get on their program. So that only pertains to men who make a lot more than what their wife make. Okay. If you are a man and your wife is making close to what you make, or if she's the breadwinner, you really need to be talking about some shared values, honey. Your program ain't gonna matter because you're not funding it. So what is made clear to me is, in this household, a lot of the financial a lot of the financial decisions seem to be on the shoulders of Dr. Simone, is what it seemed like to me, because when that young man said, when she said, how are you gonna fund your education? The first thing he said was, my mother has money. He didn't say my dad. He didn't say my parents. He said my mother. You know what I'm saying? So that tell you right there what's going on in that household and who's doing what. Now, I am sure that Cecil has money. He said that he does. He's a realtor. And, we just show, like, we just said maybe he's making about maybe 200,000, but you making real estate varies. It could be, a lot lower. It could be a lot more. But for this combo, we're gonna assume he makes about 200,000. Okay. Now, mind you, if this lady made 400K, she done had to give 64,000 to her son for the credit card bill. That's dwindling stuff down. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, she did say that her retirement account was not fully funded. Now, I don't know what her number is. When you get ready to retire, you come up with a number. Like, what's that number that you want to have in your accounts, that you want to have coming in every month for you to feel comfortable in retirement? So where you're not going to feel as if you are going to be poor, but you can still live how you want to live, and you can still do some of the things you want to do. Like she said in one of her interviews, like, she may not be able to buy all the Chanel bags, but she would be able to at least do a little bit what she want to do. You know what I'm saying? But the bigger issue here for me is that when you are married, in a partnership, relationship, whatever you're in, to the outside, you need to have a united front. Okay. Now, whether Cecil agreed with Simone or not, in that moment, he could have best supported her by supporting her in what she's saying, which is, we need to get a plan. Like, your plan, what he could have done was say, look, son, your mama's right. She's pushing 60, and she does need to focus on her retirement. Now, mind you, when she was talking about her retirement. She wasn't talking about, our retirement for her and her husband. Her retirement. Okay. They're doing some separate things here, right? He could have said, hey, we need to be concerned about your mom's ability to retire. We should look into, like, how she went to school, some student loans, scholarships, things of that nature. Like, he could have said that. But he took the approach of saying, well, we can support you. No, no, no. You needed to support your wife in that moment. And then because it was clear to anybody who's watching this scene that she was um, very hurt, very, distraught about what she was hearing. Like, nobody cares about her, and that she is the lone woman out. There is three against one, and yet she's the one funding everything. So it's like, yeah, you know, she does a lot of yelling and screaming, right? And so they're like, you know what? That's just mom. That's just my wife. She does that. And she's going to just go ahead and give me what I want. So yeah, she can say all this, but we know what's going to happen. And so, because she's probably done this before, and because she probably went ahead on and provided whatever she wanted to provide to her kids, whatever they asked for, they already know how this is going to play out. You know what I'm saying? So Simone has got to start holding the line with her kids. At the end of the day, this is your money, ma'am, and you get to choose how you want to spend your money. um and that's just the bottom line. But I do believe there may be some guilt. Maybe with her being a successful doctor, she may have missed some things. Maybe maybe she feels like she owes something to these kids, and that she's forever guilty, forever making up. There are some parents who feel that way. You know, I have a friend of mine. His daughter was not raised in the house with him as his other kids were. And she has a credit card that he pays for, and and he bought her a nice car, and he does all these things for her, and she's over 30. And you know what? I'm glad that he can afford to do it. Great. But I feel like a lot of that is because he did not raise her, and he still has a level of guilt because he looks at, what his daughters that he had with his wife, how they're living and what they are doing, and what the daughter with the previous person how what's going on with there. She had a good life. Don't get me wrong. He paid the money. He sent the money. He did everything he was supposed to do as a father. She did not want for anything. But yet and still, he does feel some level of guilt, in my opinion. But my whole thing is this: if you can afford to do these things for your kids, within reason, that's on you. I don't judge anybody on what they choose to do, but I'm just giving that example just to say that there are parents out there that do feel some level of guilt, which I think Dr. Simone does for her own reasons, and that is why they do these things that they're doing, because she really should have been already focusing on her retirement years ago. I mean, ma'am, you're almost 60. I am 43 and I'm already locked, ready, and loaded. Rock, what they call it? Lock and loaded. You know, trying to move forward with my retirement plans. You know what I'm saying? And that's why, when I tell people, hey, you don't have time building a person when you over 30. You don't have time for that. That is a young woman's game. Okay. Once you reach 30, you should have already established a foundation for your future and your finances. That hey, I'm already on a path to having a comfortable life in retirement. Okay. So a lot of people talk about, well, we should be building. Okay, yeah. There's a difference between building someone and building. Building someone is when you're having to um when you're having to put out labor into helping this person be successful. Okay. When you're building with someone, you both are coming in with a good foundation and you're working together to increase and multiply said foundation. That's the difference. Because for me, as a person, that's been working for over 20 years, why would I, you know, why would I have to, let me rephrase that. Let's just, if you've been working for 20 years, how much do you think that person probably has in their retirement portfolio, in their 401k? We'll just say the person may have, we'll just say for discussion, they have $500,000 in their 401k because they've been investing and they've been some good years. You got 500k in your retirement account, right? You get with a man who finally figured out his life at say 32, 35. He's starting, from there. So he get with you, he may have 20,000 in his retirement account. So there's a disparity here. You know what I'm saying? There's a disparity. So that's what I'm saying. Like, why would I want to get with somebody that didn't have the wherewithal to really um prepare themselves? They were out here doing what they want to do. Then you come over here to someone who was on track with things, and then you want to play the game like you the big dog. But what that retirement account talking about? Like, what's your bank account talking about? Like, what are you talking about? But you want me to stop what I'm doing, essentially, to help you build. You got to catch up, sir. You got to catch up. You behind. But these dudes don't realize you are behind. Now I understand that a lot of men may not um get themselves together until they reach over 30. That's unfortunate. I didn't realize that because in my circle of people that I associated with, from like high school and up, a lot of those guys went to college or they went into the military. And I have quite a few people who are retiring from the military right now. They did their 20 years, they're retiring, and doing well. And I have other friends who are doing well in their companies and stuff like that. So they didn't wait until they were 35, 40 to figure out life. Now, that gentleman I was telling you guys about, whose dad was paying for his education, cash, he reached out to me a couple years ago and he was asking me, do I think he should go back to school? Sir, anytime that you want to go back to school is a good time. I'm all about pro education. But at this stage, you almost 50. You're almost 50. If you want to go back to school and get that undergraduate degree, then go for it. But what I'm saying to y'all is, imagine if he would have took my advice 20 years ago and just went ahead and buckled down. He only had like a semester and a half left of courses to take, and he would have had he would have had an engineering degree. But he wanted to follow his passion. I said, you can do your passion on the weekend, but go ahead and get this degree, and in that way, you always have your degree to fall back on. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't want to do that. And so 20 years later, he's talking to me about how he want to go back to school. And do I think that, if that's possible for him? Anything is possible. But I said, think about it. You've been gone for 20 something years. You will have to redo a lot of classes that you had already done because material changes, right? But I'm just saying, like, you have to think about that. And there's a lot of men who have it together and they do what I did. They keep it going, keep it moving. And there's some that don't. So that's what I'm saying. The best time to build someone is when you're in your 20s. When you're in your 30s, you should be having your foundation set on your way to wherever your goals are. In your 40s, you should be already well-oiled machined. 50s, you thinking about possibly retiring, if not before. And you're not trying to be held back. I was told about this lady. I never met her, and she was from a very well-to-do family. She lives out here in Maryland, and she ended up marrying this man, and he didn't really have nothing. So she had her own business, and he would come work for her at her business, right? So it's like the money that he's bringing into the house is money that you paying him. So it's like, she want to retire, and she's working out her numbers. Like, wait a minute, like, I gotta figure some stuff out. It's different when everything is on you compared to, okay, I got this husband over here that's also making money, and combined, we gonna have this type of portfolio and we can make something happen. That's great. But it is what it is. But I just say all that to say, like, you have to understand, or you don't have to understand. People can just be ignorant in this life, and that's cool. Because, she just being mean. I'm not being mean to the young ladies out there. If you're gonna be building someone, that's in your 20s. Once you hit 30, you need to find somebody who already got their life together. You got choice together. Let's match up and make some stuff happen. That's where you at. Okay. Hopefully by your 40s, you've already got that person that locked down, and you are continuously seeing that money increase, and you building your family and everything up and doing what you need to do. But do not let these people tell you need to be around here in your 30s building nobody. Okay? That is young women's sport. Okay? Yeah. At the end of the day, if you are with somebody and they are a late bloomer, okay, you're going to be helping them make up the difference of what they could have had that they don't have. So you got to deal with that. When you're coming to the table with your $500,000 portfolio, and he coming in with 10K, 20K, trying to tell you something, it's going to be an uncomfortable conversation, won't it? Yes. But anyway, y'all, that's what I got to say on that. But yes, but yeah, I feel for Dr. Simone. I feel like, when it comes to her husband, he needed to support her. He didn't. I understand that he grew up a different way. That's why alignment with your person is important, because we need to establish the boundaries. We need to set the boundaries, enforce the boundaries with our kids united front. Right, wrong, and different. United front forever. Okay, because when these kids realize that, okay, well, if I go to mama, that I can get this. If I go to daddy, I can get that. When they can play you against each other, because that's what that scene showed. Like, that blow up should not have happened from their kids, but it did. It was what it was. And I am not faulting Dr. Simone for that. I can understand. To me, it was akin to Sharon Moore in that $32 million. Because look, that man saw all that money going away. Dr. Simone was sitting there like, wait a minute, I can't retire. She's saying that, like, wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute, I can't retire. Wait a minute, that's why she went off. Because not only was it that, but also you got these people here that's telling me what I need to be doing, what I need to be paying for. Husband not supporting me. That's a lot, right? So yes, y'all, a lot to unpack there, but I wish her the best. Now, I did see where she had decided to go ahead and buy her son that Tesla. Yeah, she did. That's her business. And I also saw, well, I tell you what, her son didn't say whether or not his mama bought it. He just said he had the Tesla. I can only assume that the mother helped pay for that or the dad did. I'm gonna put that out there. Um, she did say that he was going to enroll in law school fall of 2026. So maybe she is going to have him work and, and save or whatever. That's what he need to do, in my opinion. You've done your job. So, as parents, especially when you have these sons, you have got to raise them to be self-sufficient, understanding money. I mean, all kids should be raised that way, in my opinion, because if they're not, they're going to be somebody else's problem. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure that Cecil's mom did what she thought was best. But now what she has done for her son is now carrying over into what his sons are, what they are expecting. And his wife ain't with that program. You know, she's not trying to take care of these kids in these lavish lifestyles to where she can no longer afford to retire. That's ridiculous, right? But y'all, let me know what you all think about this whole dynamic scenario. Do you think that Simone is wrong for feeling the way that she does regarding wanting to retire? Do you think that she's being supported by her husband? Because let me tell y'all this before I close this out. She did say in one of the scenes that she wished she was divorced. She told Quad that, right? And which was interesting to me because a couple years ago she was talking about Quad and Quad's nice home. Quad Webb, I think is her last name. Miss Quad, very fabulous lady, and she has a very beautiful home. And Simone was making comments about how this woman could afford this nice home and how she couldn't furnish it. And I'm sure that Simone understands by now. Quad is unmarried. She's a divorcee, doesn't have any kids. She doesn't have children that are spending $64,000 on credit cards. So Quad is making her money and investing her money, and she's only responsible for herself. That's why she can afford what she's affording. When you are having to fund grown people and they are very flamboyant with the spending, ma'am, that's why you're not able to say what you want to say because you're taking care of these grown kids, 22 and 26, and whatever your husband is doing. You know what I'm saying? So that part. But yeah, she had filed for divorce. I want to say in 2018, they were able to reconcile and everything. But she filed and said the same thing she's saying now about not feeling supported by her husband, being the odd man out, having to always be the bad guy with the boys, all of that. And that she would want for him to support her. So it's not her being looked upon as the bad cop. You know what I'm saying? We're having the same mindset. But clearly that wasn't happening. I'm hoping that they are in a better place. She had her moment, and I hope that he's able to receive why she had this moment and that he's able to step in and help right the ship when it comes to these grown kids. You know what I'm saying? But yes, y'all, I wanted to add that in before we close this out. But yes, y'all, yeah, let me know your thoughts on everything. I look forward to seeing it in the comments. And yes, I could not wait for the live stream. I had to just go ahead and get this out today, y'all. And also, if you're still here, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Help a sister out. It is free. I do live streams once a week, typically on Thursdays. If you are following and subscribed to me, and got the notification bell hit, you will be notified when I have them scheduled. I have them scheduled usually in advance. So that way you'll know what I'm doing and all that. I try to keep it on Thursday so you can have a night, so you will know when I'm coming online. Okay. I try to keep it consistent for y'all. We have a good time talking and chatting it up. Okay. But anyway, y'all, I'm about to get out of here. You all have a blessed day. Happy holidays. And I will see you on my next video, short or live stream. Bye.
Forgiveness. Get it, that's your why my baby been about. Say what your margin gave you, girl, go and bust it out. Make a simp pay bit, then we can work it out.